What's going on, guys? This is Martyrs Brigade 99 coming to you once again with another session of Dark Souls commentary. Alright guys, so we're just going to do a full video of random invasions. No particular subject in mind. We're just going to have some fun. Sometimes those Battle of the Build videos, they get kind of boring. They tend to be a little serious, right? And I don't even think I've done any random invasions videos since the Remastered had been released. So I just figured, why not just have some fun, right? Because I don't know about you guys, but you can only quote-unquote duel for so long. I really like the spontaneity that comes with random invasions. You know, I mean, just like now, you got theme builds going on. You know, you got, well, you got a high-speed parry. You got the Balder Knight, as you guys can see, Gull in the background. They're all playing, and this is cool. You know, this is one of the things that make the Dark Souls community what it is, right? It's not always as serious as some of the what you might call top tiers make it. You know, they tend to take this game really serious, but this is fun, right? And it's good to mix things up. Right, and if you notice, I won't be Havel momming, right? Because I really think, and once again, you know, let me apologize. There's nothing wrong with it. You guys can do whatever the hell you want to. That's your game. But as far as me, I actually have far more fun and enjoyment when I'm doing more than, you know, Hornet Ring BS fishing. Now, is it more efficient? Yeah. You know, does it get the job done with the least amount of effort? Yeah, it does. But why not have fun with it, right? And as a matter of fact, and he thought I killed the host, which I also thought I killed the host. He must have had a nickel or dime worth of health left, because he had both of us tricked. Now, to be fair, at this point in time, I actually got frustrated. Because as you guys could see, I was parrying him and BSing and all that other stuff. And I was running low on my flask. As you guys can see that I only have 3. Now, this is one thing that I am definitely poor at executing, which is going into my menu, switching armors, switching rings, and things of that nature, right? Because unfortunately, while I'm trying to go in here and switch up my setup, these guys end up going to the boss. And not even that, it just really slowed down the pace of the invasion. I mean, at least for me, it was going at a good pace until I decided to switch setups. Bad decision on my end. Alright, so in Orlando this time around. And you know, if you guys do invasions in Orlando, you guys will all know that oftentimes you are running into, you know, 3 and sometimes 4v1s. Now, to be honest, I really don't understand why anyone would need 4 players for any bosses in Dark Souls 1. I mean, think about it. You know, all the guys who, you know, like talking about, you know, Dark Souls 1, they always like to revert to Simone Ornstein. And, you know, Simone Ornstein was good as far as difficulty and all like that for 2011. Right? But guess what, noobs? This is 2017. Things have changed. And there is no boss, at least in my opinion, in Dark Souls 1 that can compare in difficulty to any boss. Well, let me take that back. I can't even say any boss, right? Because the brain sucker boss in the challenge dungeons on Bloodborne was pretty simple. Okay, so I won't say any boss. I'll just say there is no boss that I can think of in Dark Souls 1 that measure in difficulty to the bosses in either Bloodborne or Dark Souls 3. And even Dark Souls 2, right? From when I remember it, I only played like maybe 1 or 2 playthroughs. But even in that game, there were some bosses that actually had my head ringing. But you know, with a lot of Souls fans, a lot of them tend to favor the first. And, you know, I do acknowledge that Dark Souls 1 is a good game, right? But I'm not one of those guys that will sit here and ignore all the improvements that the follow-up games have made. You know, one example is I like the fact that you can punish, you know, your opponent when you have exhausted their stamina. Honestly, although I do dislike the guaranteed 2 hits in Dark Souls 3, I think I actually prefer the it's not even a poise system, right? I think I kind of prefer the system in, I would say, Demon Souls and Dark Souls 3 over the poise system in Dark Souls 1. I do think that when you are wielding a heavy weapon, you should have some degree of immunity when you're swinging, right? Because if not, then what's the point of using a heavy weapon? And this also existed in Demon Souls. Dark Souls 1, and now keep in mind, I'm looking at all this looking backwards, right? Dark Souls 1 had a decent poise system for back in the day. But one thing that I think it promotes is basically poise BSing, right? I can't say I hate it, right? But I just think far too many people rely too heavily on the poise system, right? Because it is just my opinion that you tend to play sloppily when you know that you can just poise through certain attacks. Now, if you're talking something light, you know, like a katana, a dagger, or rapier, or, you know, something similar, I don't really have a problem with that. But I mean, come on, just being able to poise through an ultra great sword, or, you know, a great hammer or a great axe, in my opinion, that's a bit silly, right? And this is coming from a person who really enjoys the PvP in Dark Souls 1. But it's silly. I mean, come on. Some guy with basically a wolf ring, you know, maybe giant's gloves, and then cloth. You know, you could just poise through some kind of heavy attacking weapon. Come on. That doesn't even make sense. What I would do, I would have a poise system for some of the lighter weapons, you know, maybe your straight swords. You know, and you would not be able to tank like 4 and 5 hits. No, that's a bit silly. But you would have basically a poise system that was effective against some of the lighter weapons. You know, curved swords, the smaller curved swords. Obviously, we're not talking about the great curved swords. Curved swords, long swords, maybe some of the halberds, and definitely a lot of the Asian swords, you know, katana, washing pole, you know, those type of things. And the reason why I say that is because katanas are generally thin, right? And when you're faced against, you know, an opponent with steel armor, you know, I can understand why the stagger effect would be a lot less than what it would be if you were fighting against an ultra great sword. So if I had to revamp the poise system, right, if you were using a strength weapon, you know, namely a lot of the large clubs, axes, and ultra great swords, it would be similar to Dark Souls 3. Right, because like I said before, if not, then you're basically making a whole class of weapons ineffective. And there would be a similar poise system to Dark Souls 1, but it would be limited. Right, now it would have poise breaks. Right, it would have poise breaks, but the poise would only be effective against, that should have been a parry right there, but I think there's a lot of latency. It would only be effective, as I said before, against the smaller weapons, daggers, knives, fist weapons, you know, I would say, katanas, long swords. Now, with some of the larger weapons, what I would do is there would be a stagger animation regardless, right? But there would be variations of stagger animation. So let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're dealing with a claymore, right, whose poise break right now is 53 poise. Now, if you're wearing like steel or giants or havels or something like that, I mean, you're still getting hit with a great sword. So you would have a soft stagger. You would stagger, but it would be soft. But, you know, your stagger would be based upon how close or far away you are from the poise break. So let's just say you had only 41 poise. Obviously, you would stagger, but your stagger would be greater than the stagger for 53 poise. And then, you know, going down even further, let's just say for the sake of argument, you only have 31 poise for the two-handed greatsword attacks. You would have an even greater stagger animation, and then it would just cut off at a certain baseline. Like, for example, anything more than 20 below the poise break for that particular weapon, you would have a hard stagger. Somewhere between 10 or 12 in between, you would have a medium stagger, and obviously once you hit the poise break, you would have a light stagger. And this is mainly for great swords, ultra great swords, great hammers, and the large you know, Asian swords, you know, Murakumo, Grave Lord, Great Sword, some of these type of weapons. Because I'm telling you, I mean, sometimes I'm PvPing and I'll take like a great sword or a Zweihander and just watch someone just simply walk straight through it. And it's silly, because think about it. I can literally knock you down with a great arrow, but you can just poise through a Zweihander. I mean, come on, that's a bit silly. So I think the poise system, I do like the poise system, but I do think that it should have been modified. Now, what other improvements would I say? Like I said before, exhausting stamina, right, would be a punishment. Now, what I would do differently, I would have the parry animation different than the animation for exhausting your opponent's stamina. So let's just say the with strength weapons, right, the animation in Dark Souls 2, right, I would have, you know, where you just kind of take your strength weapon and you would just basically beat your opponent's head in. I would basically do that smash attack if you ran out of stamina. But the punishment for that, like I said before, would be separate from the riposte animation, because it's not a riposte, right? I'm punishing you for running out of stamina. It would be two different things. Let's see. So poise system, I would modify that. The bosses are better. What other changes would I make? I think I would have developed the Grave Lord Covenant in some of the later games. You know, I really think that it was a good covenant. It was different. I mean, you're basically inviting multiple players to come invade you, right? So it's basically ideal for Havel Moms or some of the extremely skilled players who's looking for an additional challenge. I don't know why they let that go. I really do not understand it. And as a matter of fact, I might do, you know, 1 or 2 Grave Lord videos before it's all said and done with the remaster for me. I think that's it that I can think of at the top of my head now. Now, keep in mind, I'm not saying that those were the only improvements or that those are the only changes that I would make. As most of you guys know, I don't do scripts like at all. I just sit here, you know, maybe I'm playing the game and I'm motivated to talk about something, and I'll just get to rambling and rambling. So, you know, are there other things that I would have changed? You know, are there other improvements that some of the later games had over the original Dark Souls? Well, of course. Of course. But I'm just saying, in particular, to a lot of the players who was like, well, you know, Dark Souls 1, that game is just the best out of the series. Now, if you truly believe that, obviously you have a right to your opinion. But I would be lying, right, if I said that Dark Souls 1, a 7-year-old game, was much better in almost every way over some of the later games. I would be lying. Alright, so enough about that. So we're in the catacombs. And you know what? I really love this particular build. For a lot of you guys, just in case you're not familiar with the channel, you just kind of saw something and you want to click on it. I recently did a Battle of the Build series. This is basically my 40-30 intelligence / faith build. And I love this build for random invasions because I'm pretty much prepared for anything. You know, I have Moonlight Greatsword. So whenever I'm kind of like in a sticky situation, I have my R2 to create space and inflict a crap ton of damage, as you guys know. Now, I can use castings if I wanted to, but this build is not designed for that. It's basically designed to use a lot of the support miracles. You know, I have Great Magic Barrier, obviously, Tranquil Walk, and some of these other supportive faith miracles. Obviously, I have 2 stacks of Wog, right? Because there's a lot of times when you're facing multiple players that, I mean, you just need to create space, especially nowadays when you see a lot of players using Tranquil Walk. There's a lot of hosts and phantoms out there that will Tranquil Walk your ass to death. And I think some of these castings really help Wog, right? Especially depending upon how much faith or intelligence you have. In the event that you have 28 faith to use Wog, but you are also using some type of intelligence based character. In my case, you know, I have 40 intelligence, so obviously I'm going to use Velka's talisman as opposed to some of the other talismans. In the event that you guys are not familiar, the Velka's talisman actually scales off intelligence, so it's perfect if you just want to use some low-level miracles with this scaling from intelligence. It's perfect. Now, I have another variation of a faith mage, and it's more of a caster. Now, if you guys are kind of familiar with my older videos, I had that build years ago. I haven't taken the time to build that on this particular, you know, on the remaster. But, you know, I did do a Battle of the Build series with a person who is a full caster, right? And he was extremely effective with that character. I'll probably have that video up probably within the next week or so. You know, I haven't really been able to get a lot of videos out due to work, and, you know, I have my own family, and it's summertime, right? You got to get out and enjoy some of that sun. But I'll definitely get that video out so you guys can see how good old Bruno, how effective he was with his pure caster build. Alright, so enough about that. I love that particular miracle. Emit Forced. It's cool, you know, especially when you unlock and free aim those. You know, now it is challenging hitting it sometimes, but when you do hit someone with the Emit Force, I mean, it's satisfying. It's definitely satisfying. Because the lock on, I mean, you're almost going to guaranteed miss, because as soon as you cast it and deploy it, they're basically going to roll away, right? And that's one of the main reasons why I like the free aim. Alright, so got these bloodthirsty noobs chasing after me, and here's a bait. Let's see if he's going to take it. Of course he will, because why not? Why not? Why wouldn't he take that bait, right? And we will definitely time that Wog perfectly, right? Because one thing that makes the Wog extremely effective now that we no longer have dead angle is the fact that when you catch individuals in the middle of a roll, it's going to inflict more damage. right? So when you're using walk, don't just brainlessly hit the R1 spam with walk unless you're trying to create space, right? If you're not trying to create space and you're just trying to damage your opponent, try to time it based upon the roll speed, right? If they're fat boy rolling, it's easy to catch them. Medium rolling, I would say you would hesitate a little bit to try to catch them in the middle of their roll. Fast rolling, you're gonna have to practice with that, because a lot of times with these fast roll, you see, here's one of those things when you get caught with the invisible castings. Whatever. Yeah, you know they have to do the emote. You know, oh my goodness, I understand the emotes are fun, but it's like everyone emotes. I remember years ago, players used to ask me, well, not players, but people who would watch my videos would ask me, like, dude, why after, you know, you defeat a host, do you just run away? Well, I mean, I have a better question. Why do I have to emote, right? I mean, it is what it is. I won. Why do I have to point down or well what is it? And I understand it's fun. You know, I mean, it's fun, but for me, it's just not necessary. It's just really unnecessary. Like, what's the point? You know I won, right? I mean, does the and one that absolutely kills me, it infuriates me, is the point down. It's like some people are, I mean, living through the damn video game. You know, let me point down because it means something. But whatever. Maybe I'll start pointing down. Alright, so kind of caught in a sticky situation right here. And I'm benefiting, you know, for now. As you guys can see, they're getting hit with the beams. We're on a narrow pathway, and they cannot run to the left or right. Now, what I should have done right there is parried the guy. And actually, let's go ahead and create some space. There we go. 591. Let's create some space. Alright, now he's gonna, and now you see, you notice he's fast rolling. I hit the R1 at the wrong time. And that's what I was talking about earlier. A lot of times when you want to catch them at the end of the roll, you have to time, especially those fast rollers. Now, the medium roll, the fat boy roll, those are easy, as I said before. But if you want to be more effective, especially seeing that we no longer have the dead angles, try to catch people in the middle of their roll. So just hesitate when you're dealing with fast rollers. Now, dark with grain ring, I don't even know what to say to you, because the iframes on that thing is insane. Alright, so this is my pyro character. I just so happen to switch things up for this particular match. And I think my next random invasions video, I will use this particular build. I think it's good to show off your different play styles, right? I have my Moonlight Greatsword Faith build. As you guys can see, I use the wall to create space. I use Great Magic Barrier for obvious, you know, scenarios. I use it all. Right? If it's a support miracle, I'm definitely going to use it. Alright, so this is the last invasion for this particular series. And again, I'll do a few more random invasions videos, because I do know that a lot of players, I'm sorry, I keep saying players, a lot of viewers like these random invasions, right? Because duels tend to be boring sometimes, and there's a lot of spontaneity that comes with these random invasions. So once again, I hope you guys enjoyed the series, and I will upload a few more before I'm done with Dark Souls Remastered. So hey, until next time, Martyr's Brigade is